As you know, Creative Assembly has announced that they will be announcing stuff about Total War from August to November of this year as a way to celebrate the 25th anniversary of this franchise. You can expect the usual retrospective look at their games, interviews of the developers that made those classic Total War games, but what we are all waiting for is their special 25th anniversary showcase in December that will reveal what's next for Total War. Just what the hell is the next Total War game or games? Now, according to Creative Assembly, there will be announcements on all fronts of Total War, from history to fantasy or whatever will happen with Warhammer. Now, will Total War Warhammer 3 see the end of any new content? Well, obviously not, because it makes a ton of money. No, they've confirmed there will be more content for Total War Warhammer 3. But when we talk about a new Warhammer, or perhaps a new Total War set in a Games Workshop universe, the much rumored Total War Warhammer 40k, which I don't normally think of as having battle lines and formations and stuff, the stuff that you think that a Total War game would have in battles, but theoretically it could work since Total War has had the historical ones with guns mixed with melee combat, which is what Warhammer 40k should be. So it's not completely bonkers to think they aren't doing 40k, just at a more intense level. I think it would be cool, but not really what I'm looking forward to being announced. I do think they could also go in the way of Warhammer Fantasy, shifting to the Age of Sigmar timeline. That is a very valid potential here as well, but I really got to see how it would be different and unique from the old world Warhammer stuff we've seen in Total War so far. Age of Sigmar alone doesn't excite me. I've got to see what CA has in store for the game before being on board with that. We're here, of course, for the historical Total Wars, and I'm going to go on a limb here and make a bold prediction. Well, maybe not so bold if you look at the numbers and such, because it's obvious that Medieval to Total War has been rather popular with players lately, and I would say in recent years. In fact, on Steam, there's never been as many players playing it since its release, which, by the way, I know, yeah, Steam won't have the true figures for the release of Medieval 2, sure, or at least the Steam DB or Steam charts, but still, this is extremely impressive nevertheless. And seeing that they did Rome Total War Remastered, I don't see why they will not do a Medieval 2 Total War Remastered. Same Rome engine. Perhaps it would take a bit more effort and time due to the sheer amount of factions and unit diversity. And don't forget the Kingdoms expansion, which has like 4 different campaign maps. But look, the numbers don't lie. This would make the best business decision for CA to go here. Medieval 2 is very popular. Here's a remastered version and fans, I'm sure, will go, here, take my money. I mean, I certainly would. Will the remastered version be the only historical Total War game? I think no. So previously I did a video talking about how Medieval 3 Total War should be the next Total War game. I still stand by that, although it's honestly hard to predict this, but it's possible. The medieval era is a very popular time period for Total War fans, and announcing a Medieval 3 after a Medieval 2 Remastered is the perfect combination. So imagine this. They come out announcing in December that Medieval 2 Remastered is available right now, but Medieval 3 is in very early stages of production and won't be out till at least 2027 or later. So you have the remastered version to keep you busy till Medieval 3 comes out much later. I know what you're thinking, why do I think Medieval 3 comes out so late? Good question. My theory is that the historical Total War development is a new thing. While Creative Assembly must have been planning and developing a new Games Workshop title for a much longer time, since they were done with Total War Warhammer 3, So the idea of a heavy-hitting historical Total War game is quite possibly a more recent idea, brought about primarily by the feedback from the Total War community. But then again, the team at CA Sofia were done with Pharaoh, and while some moved to working on Warhammer 3's DLCs, I think a sizable portion of that team could be working on a new historical Total War game. Still, this is quite recent compared to the team working on the Games Workshop Total War game. So my prediction goes something like this. We immediately get Medieval II Total War Remastered in December. We get the next Games Workshop Total War game announced and coming in a year or two, either Age of Sigmar or Warhammer 40k. And then we get the next historical Total War game much later. It'll be like an Elder Scrolls 6 announcement. Unfortunately, I think a bit more further down. Could the next historical game be anything other than a Medieval 3? I mean, sure, while the community definitely has been clamoring for a new medieval game, it might not be specifically Medieval 3. It could be a more focused campaign within the medieval period. That's also a possibility. Or, it might as well be another return to Napoleonic era battles, maybe this time with a brand new engine. Yes, there's been so much talk about how the Total War engine, which they've used since Empire Total War, has been burdened with what's called technical debt, bugs and other oddities across games. I think more importantly, there has not been that much evolution or big changes to battles in Total War. Sure, you've got the Warhammer focused battles, battlefields which introduce points of interest, battlefields with terrain that affect movement and combat, but nothing really massive that made me go, wow, this is like the next generation Total War battle. I would like to see how CA truly evolves the battles in their games. I mean, they focus so much on campaign evolution. I felt like battles have not really been pushed far in their games. It's all been too similar for far too long. Maybe Warhammer 40k might bring in a new era of the battle engine. Maybe they've dropped the Warscape engine completely, although, I don't think so. It's very expensive to do so. But I do hope Creative Assembly does what's right, what's good for Total War in the long term, rather than what makes business sense, to be frank. But we'll have to wait and see what they'll announce in December. Anyway, tell me in the comments what new Total War game you wish Creative Assembly will announce. I have a feeling many of you will say Medieval 3 or a medieval focused Total War game, but surprise me, tell me in the comments. I did a video about the first Total War game that I fell in love with 25 years ago. Watch that video about Shogun Total War over here. Thanks for watching and farewell, noble friends.